Hey there, welcome back to I'm Pretty Sure I Could Fix That. So today we're going to walk through how to create a sample company file in QuickBooks Desktop. I'd really like to hit why it's useful, some key tips to get the most out of it for your business. So, a sample file in QuickBooks, I think a better word for it is a sandbox file. A sandbox file is more of a larger software term than just a QuickBooks specific. I find that QuickBooks uses the word sample as almost a synonym to Sandbox, but a Sandbox slash sample file, it's a non-production version of your QuickBooks. So what that means is it's not your live data, right? It's basically an image of a moment in time, but you're not doing it in your live system, so you're not risking impacting your business. This is one of those larger technological uses that I find is always underutilized in small to medium sized businesses. It doesn't matter if you're in a JD Edwards, an Epicor, or a QuickBooks. Using a sandbox version of your environment, in my opinion, is integral for training new employees in continuous improvement. Um, the reason why it should be used for those things is it first allows you to test features safely. Anytime you make a change in a software, there's always an implication to that action. So if you're testing something, that means that you're literally trying to learn what is the implication? What is that implication to that action? So to do that in your live environment is so risky because of what you would need to do to essentially roll it back or what you could be impacting. Um, the other reason why you want a sandbox obviously is training, right? It's individuals can learn without risks. If you're training new employees, sample files are a safe space for hands-on practice and hands-on mistakes. I've always set up my trainings so that, right, you're getting trained in that sample file, and there is a pre-built competency analysis in there. I know exactly what the outcome should be. I can print it for their HR records, but also it tells me, okay, you are ready to touch that next live environment. Finally, the biggest reason why I love the sandbox is you can reset it at any time, right? The whole point of it is you are going to mess stuff up. If you do, who cares? It's a sandbox. That is why we're supposed to screw it up. We're supposed to learn. And we're supposed to be able to learn widely without worrying about, right, what is that? What what is the impact of that action, right? We want to understand it, but not have to clean it up. And that's really where a sandbox environment is just so impactful. I genuinely don't know any user, regardless of what their experience level is, who can't benefit from utilizing a sandbox in some way. To this day, it's how I do all continuous improvement, basically process initiatives. I would never do anything in live because of the immense risk that it can create. All right. So in QuickBooks Desktop, a sample or a sandbox, right, is that non-live version. But in my mind, there are three ways that you can create a sample or sandbox file depending on what your goals are. So if you're, let's say, an organization or a business owner who's never used QuickBooks before, you are just developing your file for the first time, what I would recommend using is a sample file. So what a sample file is in QuickBooks is it's a bunch of preloaded data, but what it means is, right, you don't have to bring in all these inputs to be able to test things because if you're new, you're not going to even have that developed yet. It'll show you kind of what a completed file should look like without you having to bring in that data. So the way that you make a sample file is pretty easy. You'll be in your QuickBooks basically login screen with no company open. You're going to hit open a sample file and you're going to click which of the five basically sample businesses best represent what your organization is trying to do. Honestly, I always use advanced inventory business because it's the beefed up version of manufacturing and it tends to have just about all of these features. To me, this is the most inclusive of everything. So all you do is you'll click it, and I want you to keep an eye on the color of this bar up here. So we can see right now it's a dark blue once QuickBooks finishes loading. So first it's going to tell us, hey, you're opening a QuickBooks Desktop sample file. Uh, don't use it as your company file, obviously, right? This is a bunch of preloaded data with dates in 2029. This is purely for learning. You need to make a company file if you want to work in QuickBooks in a live environment. And that can be a different video for another day of how to make that company file, but all you'll do is you hit OK. And now see how this color changed from that dark blue to like this light gray? That's just your visual indicator to know, hey, I am in a Sandbox version. It's just a visual indicator. It's one of those things where it's so silly, but so often we're going through the motions uh, and not always thinking about what am I doing. Having this quick visual of am I in the test server, not my live, to me is super important, and it raises awareness for your employees. All right, so that is the first method to make a sample file. I'm not going to go through in a ton of detail, how this works, because this is going to flow just like normal QuickBooks would this file we just built. But what it has that I think is so useful for a new business owner or someone just trying to develop how should my QuickBooks file work for me is it comes with a bunch of preloaded data. So a good example is if you just got QuickBooks, you're not going to have customers to preload into it. There's just no way. But if let's say you're just trying to figure out how should this work best for me, well, I mean, who cares what the name of the customer is, right? You just want to see how the heck an invoice works. Does this make sense for me? What it will do is it saves you a ton of time in the front end of having to quote unquote set stuff up and just learn, just play, figure out, does this make sense for me? All right. So the second way to build a Sandbox file, and the way that I recommend to just about everybody besides a truly new business, um, is to take a copy of your current live QuickBooks. Obviously, if you don't have one, you won't be able to do that. But if you do, this is my most recommended way because using data that is relevant to your business today, your system settings today, is so much more impactful for figuring out what is the risk of changing this thing or training somebody. So my background is I'm a controller. Accounting is my thing. Understanding what the right answer is supposed to be is a lot easier when I'm using data that is relevant to my organization than just like Peacock Homes, right? I know when I change X, Y, and Z, the answer should be B. But with Peacock Home Builders, I don't know. I don't have that, kind of working knowledge of it. It just makes it so much easier for evaluating what you're doing, right? Does this make sense? So the way that you're going to create a copy of your live server is you would log in to obviously your live server. So just like you would on any day that you're running your business, you're going to hit File, and then Create Copy. Create copy comes up with basically three different options. These two options are great, but not really relevant for right now. This is if you want to email it or move it for a second, and this is if you're sending it to your accountant at year end. Backup copy is the most relevant, so we are going to use backup copy to take a copy of our live server. But the thing that you're also really using backup copy for on the day to day, or I guess on a much more consistent basis than just the test server, is to protect your data. I just feel like this is important for anyone who is in charge of a set of financials to know. Creating this backup copy, what it does is it creates that image and time of the business, but if something happens, like you have a hardware failure, a data breach, or just anything, having this backup copy to restore back to is so impactful. The amount of people that I have seen go, oh my gosh, I only have it up through the last time I sent my accountant my QuickBooks file for taxes is heartbreaking. It's one of those things that does not take long. It takes a few minutes, but it saves hours upon days upon weeks of time if something were to go wrong. I have it as part of both my weekly and my monthly close process. to take a backup copy. Your backup copy should not be stored in the same place as your live server. Your test server can be, obviously, right, because it's not being used as a place of backup. But your backup copy should be stored on, an external drive, like even a USB. Just don't store it in the same place, please. Sorry for that tangent. I just think it's super important that you know that you do have this functionality, and I'd recommend you using it. It takes like 5 minutes to do it, but man, is it important. It's one of those things that you'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. But so what we're going to do is we'll click backup copy, we'll hit next, and then it's going to ask, where do we want to store it? You can totally do things as an online backup. If you want to basically hold that backup copy you're talking about online in the cloud, you can do it here with Intuit. I'm personally going to store this on my computer, right? I'm creating a test server. I don't need to pay. Not pay, sorry. It's in my subscription, but I don't need to store it online. So I'm going to create a local backup. I'm going to save it now. I don't need to schedule future backups, right? This is a one and done because I'm making my test server. So then we'll hit next. I am then going to store it in my documents. There's really no reason why it has to be here. This is just an individual machine. If you have a server, that is where you would be storing it, right, in a controlled location that other people in your organization could connect to. So then, you can all work in the same QuickBooks file. So I'll hit save. What I do like is it automatically brings in the date that you are backing it up. What happens as you continually take backups or you're rebuilding test servers is this points you to what's the most relevant information by basically having the date closest to you. So I'll hit save. Pretty easy. So then you'll get a pop-up, which is on my other screen. I don't know why, but it's literally just going through and just saying it's backing up my data. Oh, awesome. It did it. And it pops up with, hey, good news. Here's where I backed it up. All right, so and just as a quick visual indicator, I am going to change the color of this company more just so you can see that I'm not opening this same file that we were just in, but I'm taking the copy. So I guess if you want to know, the way you change the color of a QuickBooks file is you go to Edit, Preferences. It'll give you a pop-up. You're going to go to Desktop View. Then you're going to go to Switch the Color. Then you're going to change it. So we'll make it, I don't know, purple red. All right. So now you can see this is purple. The other one was a copy of 3 minutes ago when it wasn't this color. So now you'll be able to visually see. I'm not just reopening this. Sorry. This is editor note stuff. I realized when I was reviewing the footage, I did not rename the backup that we took. I articulated that, I love the fact it does this date, but we're also making a test server as much as you can change the color. Another super easy way to figure out if you're in the right one is to not just leave it the same name. I don't know why I did not do this, but so I will rename it test server or whatever you want to use, but just so we can visually see it when we go to pull the backup. Golly, I don't know why I did that. All right, so now not only do we have a different name, but we also have a different color, so we will really know if I'm opening the right file. All right, so now that we have correctly renamed what the test server is, changed the color, it made it so if we click the live server, it's kind of on us. Let's go through and actually open our new test server. So if you're in your sample file or wherever you would log into your live file, you're going to hit File, Close Company. It takes a second. I don't know why QuickBooks always takes a little bit to close the company out. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying don't find it abnormal if it does it for you. It's always done it for me and everyone else. All right, so then it brings us back to our login screen. We are going to open or restore an existing company. So we are going to restore a backup because that's what we just pulled. So we'll hit next. We have a local backup per the way that we backed up the file. Next. We know it's in documents. Oh, look at that. Test server. So double click. Next. Now we have to save. It's then going to basically take that backup and restore it as an actual QuickBooks Live file.
So I'm going to call this my working test server. So it'll take a second to load, as I said QuickBooks always does. Keep in mind, I took a sample file, so obviously it's popping this up. It won't for you because you should be taking a backup of your live server if you're using this methodology. You'll hit OK. Perfect. Look at that. It's gray and not that bright pink. We know we're in our correct test server. So again, to me, this is the best one that you should be using if you do already have a working QuickBooks file. The final way and the most intensive way, but also still a good method, is to start from scratch. So we would get out of our current company and we're going to make a new working test server. It's going to come with nothing preloaded into it, which for some people is exactly what they're looking for. Just not me. I don't like loading in a bunch of bogus data. I might as well take a pre-built bogus data. But what we'll do is we'll create a new company file. It will pop up. I myself am the admin. I'm going to start the setup. I'm going to sign in later. And then we would be filling in any relevant information. So I'm going to fill this out over here. So I would recommend filling out, actually I will bring it back over till I put an email. You have to use an actual email address. Obviously I don't just want to put a random email or my email onto the internet, but what I would use is, you should use either your business name with the word test, whatever. My background is manufacturing, so I always use manufacturing. You're going to use, set it up exactly how you envision your organization working, how it is working tax-wise. Most people are S corps nowadays, so bring this one over here. I'm typing in my email just so you don't think. So then I'm going to create my company. All right, so then it pops up with a creating new company file. Please wait. It's literally just loading its raw data. So look at that. You can see it's coming into play. A good use for this is if you want to start a fresh slate. Some people have been in their QuickBooks and they go, from day one I didn't do it right. I didn't know we were doing it, as we grew. And I feel like I need to start a baseline of almost nothing, and that's where this would come into play. But right, compared to the test server, the original sample file, there's nothing here, and that's where you go, okay. What this is also good for is if you have a current company file that you plan on rebuilding, you can export data from that and import it into this test server to be able to see how is it going to look. And that's where, that to me is super useful. But besides that, it's blank. This is where you can basically do mass imports, view to export, import. But yeah, those are your three methods for making a test server or a sandbox for you to be able to, kind of figure out, what do I want for my business? How am I going to grow? How am I going to train? These are three super powerful methods, or not, I shouldn't say methods. They're not methods. They're just three different avenues to basically get to the same outcome of a test server. The test server in itself, that sandbox file, that is what's powerful. Being able to play and make mistakes without impacting your live business is, to me, not just a luxury, it's a necessity for any organization who is looking to grow and continuously improve. If you like the video, please feel free to comment and subscribe. If you hate it, feel free to do the opposite, which is downvote and comment that it stunk. I'm joking. But if there is something in QuickBooks that you specifically have questions on, be it building a report, connecting ODBC, please feel free to comment below. My goal with this series is just to be able to give somebody a playlist of an in-depth look at how do I use QuickBooks Desktop. There's a million ways that you can use it. I've built QuickBooks into baby ERPs using some add-on functionalities, right? Getting creative. But, QuickBooks can run your business up to a very large dollar value if you're willing to put the work in and, be kind of creative with what that solution looks like. QuickBooks is very powerful for what you pay for it. My goal is for either a user who has the most experience or no experience to hopefully be able to pick some of these videos up and get something out of it. Uh, all right. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye.